audio levels. How do I sound? And then how does Mike Minotti sound?
I always sound good. Apparently, you can see that I sound good otherwise.
I always sound good.
Got this. Yeah. All right. Hey now. It's Nick Turbo. Does he still sound awful?
Yeah, I haven't sent him the microphone yet. He was yelling at me about it yesterday.
Yeah, fair.
Oh, damn. You did promise him a new.
I'm going. I haven't had a chance to get to the post office yet.
Jeff has a lot of false promises he gives people.
Yeah, that too. Absolutely.
What promising?
How do I sound?
You just garbage. You sound like trash. You really do.
I mean, but it could be worse, I guess. Wow.
Wow.
That's I sound bad, but damn, you take the cake.
Thanks.
Are you on a Chromebook? What is going on? Is that what it is?
Who? Me?
No, not you. Yeah, Nick Turbo. What is he on?
What do you care about his audio quality right now?
I don't. I'm just getting everything else set up. Okay, I got the rundown there. I got the thingy here. I've got Mike Minotti there.
You should call it like that.
Okay. I feel like I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, we got to test the audio. Okay, Stream Deck is closed too. Jeez.
I don't know why I'm yelling so much.
Are you just jamming?
Yelling.
Oh, yelling. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just.
I also heard jamming.
Yeah. Now I got Bob Marley in my head.
Bad, okay?
No, I'm tired of your excuses. It's
No.
Yeah, we speak English almost perfectly. So why don't you?
That's true.
Almost.
6, 7. Yeah.
It's our only
language.
language.
I hate the most about English is that you separate the words.
Yeah.
Each word, and it's fucked up. If a word ends in the same letter than the next one, should say it like together. Don't put a gap between it.
Well, that's how you get yelled at by teachers.
Yeah, we were severely beaten for doing things like that. All right, is this the right button?
Chat says I sound good.
Wow.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna hit the intro. Is this the right? Yes, that's the right music. Can you guys hear that?
I do chat.
No. Who can I do a plug?
Every week, huh?
It's just funny every week. But someone's probably like, "Hey, you guys can hear that?" I'm like, "No, I can't hear that."
It'd be music.
Now I hear it.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay. Where's the Discord? What do I do with Discord?
Can the chat listen to us? Hear us?
The chat can hear. Yeah, the chat can hear. You could say hi before I kick you guys out. Before I unmod Nick again. Yeah.
You from the Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, is that what that was? That's just how you got rid of him that time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
there was a kick button and it kicked him out of the thing entirely.
I 100% knew that was going to happen because
he thought it was me.
It's not the same as kick.
Yeah, it was funny.
You did say you would banish me not even an hour before.
I want to do a give me a sec. For the Latinx people,
you said you would banish me.
0 of them that speak Spanish.
So that's why I thought it was you.
Podcast. Shut up, Nick. I'm trying to do something here. If you want to listen to a podcast in Spanish about gaming and shit, follow to my friends at New Game Plus. It's New Game Plus OK on Twitter. They're great. They've been doing this shit for like 10 years, and now they started a new podcast. So,
okay, cool.
Content in Spanish.
That's neat.
They're great.
Yeah, I always like when people from other countries show up here, but I also am like, man, I hope they have stuff in their native language. So that's neat. Cool, thanks. All right, now
only listen
get
to
out.
Us. Learn another language to appreciate me.
Yeah, well that too.
Speak
All right,
American.
let's see.
American.
I'm gonna hit what? See, there is the kick button there. Which one would just kick them out of this thing? Oh, there they go. Now they're running.
I'm
Two. That's why I think. See, that's why I yell and scream.
Yes, apparently that's better. All right, hi everybody. We're getting started. I am. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the button to do that. I just got to hit start recording. I think I'm good. Although now children are yelling at me, but whatever. How are you feeling, Mike? Oh wait, I need to tweet. That's the one thing I need to do.
I haven't tweeted either, actually. In my life, did you reset your router? Or are we just running wild?
I mean, I have faith.
I don't. It happens. All right. You know what? Okay. Let's see where it goes, Jeff. Let's see how it goes.
I'm the one that has to like edit the podcast when things go bad. So
well,
whatever.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad that it hurts you, but all right. Look, we're live. In my life, you Judas. Anyone else excited for new Iron Maiden album today?
You're the first person I heard mention it. It's all been about Drake, is what people and then
I saw
Bobby
something about
Shmurda.
how he said he's a lesbian or something. I don't know. I'm listening.
He had a new album. I didn't hear about him being a lesbian, but all right, whatever.
Oh, that's all I heard about it. He said that, and I think the people did like that. I have no idea. I don't know anything about Drake except that he played. The only time I heard about Ninja was when Drake started playing with him that one time. All of a sudden, Ninja became a huge thing. So I think we have Drake to blame for Ninja, is my understanding.
That's fair. That's a fair takeaway. All right, I am tweeting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a night.
Okay.
Michael Minotti. What a Mikey, what a night.
All right, I tweeted. You tweeted.
Sure did, buddy. I sure did, Buckaroo.
All right, cool. Well, you're doing that now.
My Buckaroo.
You're making those noises. I am ready to go. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm counting down here. 5, 4, 3. The internet, you're busy. Let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything happening in the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeff Grubb, and with me is
Mike Minotti.
Today's episode, we have news and games, and we're going to get to all of that. We have Game Boy stuff happening. We have PlayStation stuff happening. We'll get to all of those things. But first, Mike, how you doing?
Fine.
Did you have a good week?
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't stressful at all. I didn't have bigger outlets doing anything weird to me. That's for sure. It was fine.
Normally, when you say these things, it's when you're being ironic, but I want to believe you this time. This time, I think you're perfectly okay, skating by.
I'm completely fine. Fine. I don't know. Dude, I guess I could just talk about that.
Sure. We'll probably get asked about it, but yeah, let's go for it. That was weird.
It was weird. For people who don't know, I was part of a Far Cry 6 preview event where we all played the game through Parsec, which lets you like sort of cloud stream into another computer. So I was able to play a game. I played like 5 hours of Far Cry 6, which was like way too many hours of Far Cry 6 to play at once. I will say that. And I wrote
I'm just like, you never would have played 5 hours of Far Cry 6 on your own effort.
Yeah, maybe it was 4. It felt longer. I mean, it wasn't long. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I would never choose to play like a continuous session of Far Cry this long anyway. And then it's like, you have a PR person who's on the thing with you, and they're there to help, but it also makes me feel guilty about like, I'm going to stop now because I'm tired for a while. Yeah, but so I wrote my preview. Largely negative, largely talking about how, it's still Far Cry, whatever. I mean, it's a big game, it's a beautiful game, but like the tone is weird because sometimes it's jokey and sometimes, it's about dictators killing civilians and stuff, blah, blah, blah. Then there's a Kotaku article that was just kind of bemoaning everyone's previews of the game, and I was quoted in it, and the only quote they used was when I said, "It's big and beautiful."
Right.
Right. And then, the whole article is just about how, we weren't being critical enough about Ubisoft's things. We weren't being critical enough about the representation of Latin American, Latinx, and that, there should have been more Latinx people previewing the game. So I don't know. It caught me off guard. It was a weird thing to see. It was bizarre to be kind of called out like this in that manner. And, I always get a little defensive and on edge when that sort of thing happens, which doesn't happen very often. And then I kind of got sort of pushed over the edge because the link then to my article wasn't even the right link. Like, it linked to the wrong website. And look, that's a small mistake, really. I do that, I'm sure, plenty of times. That stuff happens. But coupled with everything else, it got to me. So yeah, so then I had to tweet about it. And then the tweet like kind of went mildly viral. And it was nice in some sense because I got a lot of support. But then I got a lot of like the people like, I hate Kotaku too. Yeah, Kotaku's trash. I don't hate Kotaku. I don't. And I don't want to like join this weird subsection of the internet that's just obsessed about hating Kotaku. I really don't care about that much. But I did think it was weird. It was a drag other people down instead of lift other people up, because there were some great Latinx creators at that preview event, like Kate Sanchez, who wrote really interesting previews about it. And this article didn't like make those visible. It kind of acted like they didn't exist. It said it was just a wagging the finger at other people. And again, like I felt misrepresented because I was critical of the game. It framed me as some kind of PR lapdog, right? Who's just going out there echoing whatever they want me to say about how great Far Cry 6 was, which wasn't happening. And maybe I could have been more critical about some more of the political stuff. And maybe
we'll have a chance to do that, though. We will have a chance to do that. Like, it's not like you. I don't think you were giving them a pass in any of those regards. Honestly, saying this is still Far Cry to me is so loud. Like, it's so loud of like, okay, I know what to expect. I think I gave them the benefit of the doubt for Far Cry 5 or whatever, because I'm like, there's a chance. And after that one turned out to be exactly the same thing as always. There's just this wishy-washy using politics as window dressing. I'm like, okay, there's no chance the next one's going to be any different. So you're saying it's still Far Cry? Okay, and anyone reading these previews, I'm like my voice is at like a volume here where I'm like, I'm more upset about what Kotaku wrote than I actually am. It's whatever. It was just some mild criticism about previews or whatever.
You should be upset. They went after your good friend Mikey.
Well, I will say that I think it's like, it just wasn't a very good criticism of the preview process is the issue. Yeah. And then when I tried to like criticize that, people were freaking out like, hey, I'm like, how dare you? He's just criticizing stuff and you should be able to do that. I'm like, sure, but do a better job. These are like cherry picked quotes, and what you do there when you make this about like, I am good at this and no one else is, you have to like really prove that. You have to be the person that is bringing the previews and show how it's done. And if you have like, it's very telling that Kotaku has no examples to point to of themselves doing this. They just don't do previews. So it's like, what are we talking about here? It's a very like hard line to walk to be like, hey, everyone is bad at this except for me. And so I'm like, so when you go to read it and you're trying to find out exactly what the specific issues are, and if you look into it like at all and you see that other people are not included there that would have countered this argument, it feels like selection bias. And so it just ends up being, it counters its own point. All right, I got a kid yelling at me. Hang on.
They're yelling at my defense. Jeff's kids hate Kotaku. But no, I don't. I know a lot of people sort of came in with the whole... again, they wanted me to kind of jump on this Kotaku hate train, or this idea that Kotaku was just jealous because they didn't get invited to the preview event.
I don't think they care about that all that much.
They don't care. I don't think they care. I think they wear it as a bit of a badge of honor at this point, honestly. That's fine. So yeah, and look, I think there were good intentions. I really do. I think he was actually, upset about stuff happening at Ubisoft. And that is an interesting conversation to have. What do we do about covering these companies with these sexual harassment issues and stuff like that? And we talked about that before. And look, I'm not sure. I don't think I have the answer. My philosophy right now is we cover those in stories. But if I'm writing about Far Cry 6, I'm not necessarily going to bring that up because it feels like I don't want to put a scarlet letter on every developer at Ubisoft who's working on Far Cry 6 and has investment in that game, doing well, or that game getting a fair shake, and I'm not sure. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's more important to punish the people higher up, even if that brings down like the rank and file with them.
It's hard to find out where that line is. I feel that too when I'm writing these things. It's I think I often end up like putting a line in there, but I don't think that is also good enough, and I don't know if it's like hurting the game or hurting anybody. Honestly, it feels like when I'm doing that, I feel like I am just trying to cover my own ass so people can't say that I'm not doing enough to draw attention to those things. So it's right. Tough, and like I'm very aware of those things when I'm writing about games where that's an issue. But I mean, I just like who do previews serve, and that's what that Kotaku story, the biggest issue with me is like who is that the audience for that story about the problem with game previews and the problem with Far Cry 6 previews.
It almost
in
felt like it was a story for the other Kotaku writers who were all complaining about the previews in their Slack or something at that time.
That's what it felt. It really feels like that, and you could tell because when readers go to read it, like people were like that it was like trending that night, and I'm like, I really don't understand why it's trending unless people are coming to this and they just see like. They don't get anything out of it. They feel like Kotaku is writing for some other audience other than them. And if you're doing that, if you're going to be like the professional lecturing other professionals in your space, you have to be so on point. You can't make any mistakes. You have to really rise above and show instead of tell how to do this right. And there was none of that in there. So it just I don't know. I think there's a lot of good intentions at Kotaku a lot of times. I think there's a lot of poor execution when it comes to this kind of stuff right now, and that's why they're stepping on rakes all the time with these things. So I don't hate Kotaku, and my big thing is Kotaku isn't a thing. The people write these stories. Ethan Gotch wrote this story. That was another issue with that, where he was like, VentureBeat wrote. I'm like, VentureBeat didn't write anything. Mike Minotti wrote a preview. Like, say his name. But yeah, it's. So yeah, when it comes about Kotaku, you can leave me out of that stuff. But I think the specific story here, written by a specific person, wasn't very good. It actually has problems.
I'm very uninterested in having an internet beef with anybody, with any person, or it's fine. I could take criticism. I thought it was a little unfair and misguided this time. But look, they're not sorry about it. They meant it, and I don't think it's fair. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna move on, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Pablo Cost does say Kotaku sucks. WarioGon rocks, which if no one's seen, WarioGon, Polygon's Wario website is fantastic. It really is very good.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing we see jealous.
Yes, absolutely.
Are we going to be shameless and just literally make Waluigi beat?
Yeah, we should. Honestly, that needs to happen.
Just absolutely shameless.
Well, Mike, I'm glad to hear you're having such a fine week. Very easy stuff, easy going stuff. We're going to get into some news here next after I do the credits. So thank you for joining us. You can get more from Mike and me at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, you can email us, gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. That's the plus sign. You can also get us on Twitter at GamesBeat. Thank you to Carlos Ain, who is Insane in the Rain Music on YouTube for the use of our theme songs. And if you are listening to this on the website player widget, you can subscribe to the audio version of the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us that thumbs up, hit that like button, go ahead and tell your friends, all that other stuff. If you hit the like button right now on YouTube, it helps other people find the show, and we really appreciate that. It really does help. Join the Discord. The link is in the description. It's also discord.gg/gamemess. And then thank you to our mods, who you might have heard in the pre-show if you were watching on YouTube. They're a bunch of clowns, but there are clowns, goddammit. And you can support this show and the other stuff I do here on this channel by going to patreon.com/JeffGrubb. That gets you into the secret channels inside the Discord. All right, Mike, I have news here starting with Sony and the new PlayStation 5 model, which I just want to get out of the way real quick. It's fine. It's not going to catch on fire. Everybody can stop freaking out.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that now. I think most people call it, except for like those the most intense Xbox, right?
Yeah.
The crazy Xbox fanboys. Everyone understands it's not a big deal. And the fact that the fanboyism is in such a state now where people are like desperate to like latch on and like desperately look for these things is a sad state of affairs. But yeah, it's fine, and it's interesting that they did do this so quickly. And you talked about this over on Grubb Stacks, and it is just about because of shortages and stuff. If you can't save money on production, you're going to do it immediately. Right.
Yes. Normally they would have just waited until a more like a bigger revision, or they would have made it like it wouldn't have been such a major reduction in the cooling right away if it weren't for all of the problems with the supply chain and everything else. Like any money they could save right now is going to have big dividends. So they made the move to do it right now, and they did overkill with the cooler. Like it's all it is to it. Like that original cooler was such overkill. They did not. It's the biggest like radiator that has ever been inside a console. It is laughable. It's comical how large it is. And now they've reduced the size, and it's still almost comically large. It's still so much bigger than almost any other console has ever had. So the idea that this is some some risky maneuver for them to save a buck right now is not actually the case. So yes, I think you're right that most people know this now.
I was amused because you came pretty early and were like, this was fine. And then, I enjoyed watching a lot of people be like, wow, look at this guy covering for Sony. I was like, man, 6 months ago, he was Sony fanboy public enemy number 1.
Yes, God.
Now it's oh, well.
It is funny when that happens, but
it is funny, and maybe I should be graceful and not bring it up.
No, whatever.
I want to say something, man.
Yeah, it's like you kind of just can't help but like roll your eyes and laugh at it because it's like so absurd when that happens, when it goes back and forth like that. But yep. And then Sony does have some big news coming up. They announced yesterday, I think, that they're going to have a PlayStation 5 showcase next week where they're going to talk a lot about PlayStation 5 games. And it's not called a state of play. It's called a showcase. It's going to be 40 minutes. Mike, is this the E3 show from Sony that we've been waiting for?
Yes, it is. They're already kind of laying down those expectations. It's pretty exciting, huh?
Yeah. So you're right. I think, and one of the things they're doing to lay down those expectations is they said PSVR 2 won't be there, and that's kind of all they've said won't be there. It's not like some of these other showcases where they're like, hey, don't expect this or this or this, no God of War stuff. Everything seems to be on the table here, so then that raises the question, what do you think we're going to see?
I think we are very specifically going to see like the first big public blowout for God of War. They're going to have some Horizon stuff because they still need to get people excited about that game. But God of War 2 will be the big one. We'll finally see what that actually looks like, how that is going to be different on PlayStation 5. And I think a lot of expect us to be pretty similar. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can make that still pretty exciting. If they're going to go again for like the big continuous trailer like the first one had, or maybe they try to do something a bit more like trailer-esque with cuts and stuff. I don't know. I'm excited to see what that is.
Yeah. I do think there's like, they are building out expectations, but 40 minutes is pretty short. So like, to me, it feels like it has the potential to be like a really good Nintendo Direct. But I mean, if you have God of War, if you have Final Fantasy 16, and then the rest of it is updates about stuff coming out this fall and early next year, like Horizon, that's a major show.
Yeah, and I think they'll announce one new thing here, whether it's like one of those live service things they've been working on, or if it's just there's got to be something big from one of the new studios. I always forget, like I'm always trying to imagine like, wait, who's next here now? Because I'm
it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, and it's like, man, are they looping back to Naughty Dog? Is it time for them? But I think
Naughty Dog might talk. I mean, they're going to talk about factions, probably, right?
Yeah,
it's time for factions.
Right. That's right. They're going to talk about factions, which will be like the live service. So there you go.
I mean, they could talk about the Last of Us remake. I mean, if that's coming out next year, I mean, that could happen. So they could talk about that.
This is happening on September 9th, so maybe we're getting a Dreamcast collection.
There we go. $99.99. Never forget.
Dream.
Yep. That's when I got my first car crash. Is $99.99. So yep.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I can remember I got my first speeding ticket when the Wii came out because it was that day. So it was like November 19th, 2006, something like that. Whenever the Wii came out.
Yep. So yeah, I think that there's pretty much everything's on the table here, and I'm expecting a lot, and I hope that they live up to it. I do. I mean, what do you think the chances of seeing like Final Fantasy 16 is?
I think it's pretty good. There's a bunch of things that can show up soon. There's the Tokyo Game Show, and I feel like there's even something else I can't remember now. This would almost make the most sense. This is probably going to have the biggest audience because there's going to be more Western interest in this than there is over for Tokyo Game Show. And we talked about this before. A lot of the Japanese game developers are like they want to target the Western audience.
Yes,
because that is where most more than ever that's been the case for a while now, but now so significantly that you want to debut these things over in the West, unless it's like Dragon Quest, and even that they made a big deal when they announced that it was broadcasting in English at the same time.
Yep.
So. Yeah, and I mean, maybe there's a chance that we do get Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 announced.
Sure, right.
Maybe they have
talk about it, just a logo or whatever, and just kind of like let us know how they're going to start rolling out that information. They could easily do that without showing anything else from it. So there's a chance.
They could do it that way. It's like this is still like 2 years away, but like here it is happening.
We are going to call it Part 2, and you could start thinking about it like episodes or whatever. And we'll have more to say soon, and they're hard at work on it. All that stuff is the kind of thing that you could drop in there really quickly, and I think that there's a chance for that.
A little bit about that loop, and Kina is going to be there too.
Yeah. Let's see. So the standalone Ghost of Tsushima Rivals mode, Pablo Cos and chat was mentioning like that'll probably be there. So, but that means Sucker Punch is still pretty busy with stuff, and so they're probably not going to have anything new. I guess the other thing is Silent Hill.
I mean, God, I don't know. I bet that Abandoned will not be there. I bet
Abandoned will not be there. No, I think you might have a very good point there. Silent Hill, though, itself, probably made by Bloober. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be there. This has never been my rumor, and I'm happy it's not been, because it's been nonstop, just like people getting their expectations up over and over and it not being anywhere. But, based on what we're hearing, I think there's a chance that it could finally end up here. So we'll see. I mean, that would be all those things, even if like you take 2, 3, or 4 of them, that's a really, really good 40 minutes. And then, they probably have something about Call of Duty in there for a minute or two, and then call it a show.
No, John has a good one. I want to see that Metal Gear Solid remake that we are hoping Blue Point's doing. Man,
I guess Blue Point, we could be due to see more from Blue Point. So, man, I mean, yeah, they could have. I mean, Metal Gear Solid remake would be the kind of thing. So, Andy Robinson over at VGC was saying he's heard about some super announcements for this show, and to me,
remake would be one of those.
It's like one of those that would definitely qualify for that kind of hype. So. Yeah, and they haven't had an E3, a real E3, in quite some time. They did a couple of shows last year in 2020 as we were waiting for the PlayStation 5 to come out, and that's where we first saw stuff like Forspoken and Final Fantasy 16 and a lot of these other things.
And a logo for God of War.
Logo for God of War. So they still have to deliver on a lot of those promises, but they clearly should be ready to reload at least a little bit with some new announcements. So.
Good morning, GamesBeat. Bring back Jet Moto. Oh man.
Do you think it's something like that?
Different. Yeah. It'd be so different because they it is a criticism, and that doesn't bother me too much. But Sony exclusives are all kind of the same. Yeah, bring back a Jet Moto. That'd be still different than everything else. Even if it was a $40 digital game, man, you just make it look super. Oh yeah, I want Jet Moto.
You could almost make it look like a PlayStation 1 game with just some extra effects, and it could be pretty cool.
I would like that. I don't think that's the route they would go. But
no, they wouldn't. I would like it a lot. Okay, other PlayStation news. The PlayStation Horizon Forbidden West upgrade path is confusing and bad. And it's specifically confusing because, for one, they said they would provide an upgrade path in the past. And also because this case with Horizon Forbidden West is different than all of the other upgrade paths that Sony has provided previously. They've done ones where you just get the upgrade for free. They've done a couple where you have to pay $10, and now with Horizon Forbidden West, they just won't have an upgrade if you buy the base version, the $60 version on PS4. There will be no way to pay any money to get to the PS5 version, at least as it stands right now. The only way to ensure that you do get that, if you don't have a PS5 right now and you want to play it on PS4, you have to buy the $80 version, which is like a collector's edition of some sort. This is confusing and weird. Mike, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, exactly that. Confusing and weird. I get it. You're not going to be Microsoft on this stuff. You're not making it a priority to be simple, but at least be consistent. It's boggling. I have no idea this works, and nobody does. I mean, it's clearly not a technical thing. It is bizarre to be like, hey, you have to buy this $80 version. Oh, if I buy the $60 one, then can I just pay the difference later to do that? And they're like, no. No, you cannot.
No. Oh, why not? No good answers. No good answers. Yeah, fuck you. Because that'd be too much like smart delivery, and we don't believe it. It's nothing like smart delivery. Just take our money, please.
I love the phrasing here. The marketing is so bad. Dual entitlement.
Right.
It's like something a judge would order. It's literally one step away from child custody and stuff like that.
It's bad because the message it sends is that who is in charge of these decisions? Lawyers and accountants. That's what it feels like. That's how dual entitlement goes from something you say behind closed doors to being in the answer on a frequently asked question thing meant for consumers. It's bad and weird, and in the light of this, something like a branded smart delivery where you take a concept that's really simple that everyone sort of mocked at first. But it was like, why are you trying to add a weird fun name to this thing? It's just, of course that's the way it's going to work. And now it's like, okay, everyone just understands smart delivery, and it does have this really nice ring to it in like compared to what the competition is doing. Both companies like definitely step on rakes all the time. But the fact that Sony just keeps doing this over and over, that money cannot be worth all of this weirdness that you are creating around your brand right now, especially when you are planning to elongate the cross-generation period, where first it was I Believe in Generations, and now it is Gran Turismo, whatever it is, 7 or 8, whatever. Whenever it comes out 5 years from now, it's still going to be cross. Like, no, come on.
That is the one. That is the line. I'm like, wherever the line is, surely it must be before the next Gran Turismo. Surely that should be just a PlayStation 5 game.
Just like, okay, if you made the collector's edition $70,
yeah,
like that solves it, because that's how much you would pay for the PS5 version, or at least give a $70 option. It's just so bad and weird. I don't get it.
It is. And look, I get that they're high. They're doing very well right now. They can't make enough PlayStation 5s, so whatever. But there are a good amount of people who have both consoles, and you don't want those people to have reasons to just play their Xbox more. And the fact that this stuff works way better on the Xbox platform is sure going to get people on that platform more, and then they're going to suddenly start playing their online games with their friends more. They're all going to start making their purchases on there. Like it could snowball, and just enough of these decisions, it could be bad for Sony in the long run.
It's definitely like the sibling effect that Sony isn't worried about here. And by that I mean, like, when you have like a sibling or a cousin or whatever come and say, "Hey, I want to go get a system. What should I get?" And you're like, "Well, listen, PlayStation 5 has a lot of exclusives, so definitely consider that." But here's a bunch of things that Xbox is doing to make your life super easy. Here's Game Pass. Here's smart delivery. If you buy a game, don't worry about it. Chances are it's just going to work wherever you end up buying it. If you want to start at the S and later upgrade to the X, these are things you just don't have to think about anymore. And that stuff is like so easy to recommend to someone who is kind of a little bit more casual, that you're right, it could snowball. I still think, like, clearly Sony's doing well. Clearly PlayStation 5 is going to continue to succeed. This is not going to be the kind of thing that's going to derail Sony. I think it's the kind of thing that just sort of helps the messaging of Microsoft. But I don't know if that's worth the money that Sony's trading here. Like, you're going to get a little bit more money from someone who's going to double dip. Is it worth it to sort of, have those nicks at your reputation? I probably not. I would say no, but I'm coming at it from like a gamer first, consumer first perspective here. I don't know.
Here's my question. We've seen people make mistakes like this before. Microsoft did it when they tried to increase the price of Xbox Live Gold, and then they kind of turned those opportunities into easy victories, right?
Right.
Do you think Sony's going to reverse course here and say, no, you can't pay $10 and upgrade it and turn it into an easy victory? Or you think they're going to stick to their guns here?
No, I think by Monday we're probably gonna if by Monday we hear that this is completely thrown out and it's way simpler than they said originally, I will not be even a little bit surprised, because they are listening. These companies are listening. They have people dedicated to feedback and stuff, and they know those things are really important. They know that they can build, and you have like the typical Sony defense force out there going saying, "Hey, I got to keep it real. This is bad." And when you that's what happened with the Xbox Live Gold thing, where it was like even the Xbox fans were being the loudest about that. And I think there's a chance that the people being the loudest about this will be the people who feel it in their pocketbook, and that's going to be the biggest Sony fans. So why do it to them like that when you could just take the easy victory? And honestly, that easy victory is worth tangible dollars. It does have an effect in the long run. So yeah, I think there's a good chance that by next week, this is all gone and forgotten and completely reversed for sure.
All right, let's move on.
Dead Space got a first look event this week. Mike, did you get a chance to check this out?
No, I actually didn't, and it sounded really interesting because they gave a really early look at the game, and I wonder if that's something we're gonna get more of here, because I feel like there's a consensus among developers that their audience is savvy enough to understand.
It seems like that's changing, yeah.
And not get like they're not going to be confused, right? Like they're not going to be like, oh, this game looks bad. Everyone understands it's in development, and that's fine. I mean, I remember, like the first Lord of the Rings trailer had behind the scenes stuff and whatnot like that way back when it came out on it was like still AOL or something in '98 when I saw that or something.
It looks early, but it looks good. When you see the comparisons, you could see all of the work they're doing to update the game. They're still using that first game very much as the skeleton of what they're building going forward.
That's why not? Like, that game still holds up pretty well for the most part, and it's going to make development a lot easier. You don't have to worry about things like designing enemy encounters and like pacing and maps and things like that.
Yep, I think it's exactly what's happening here. So a lot of the work really is done for them. That is enabling them to flesh things out, which they talked a lot about. Like, they have a lot of ideas to ensure that this game fits better into the lore that then came after it, so that it, like, you feel better payoffs in the long run, things like that. That's cool. It also might mean that they can get to that October 2022 release date that I wrote in a story, and that's what I understand the plan to be. So even if it looks really early right now, the hope would be that they should be able to get a lot of work done, because so much of it's already done in that original game, and that's one of the big appeals of something like a remake. So hopefully that's the way it works out, and Dead Space is super successful, and then they kind of keep just going with it. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's see, the next story: Tencent may poach Yakuza creator Toshihiro Nagoshi from Sega, who is the Yakuza creator. How do you feel about this?
It's interesting. I feel like it's probably a little scary for Yakuza fans, because it's not like he's going to make Yakuza. He's going to have to make something new and different, and maybe it'll be good. But a lot of people specifically like Yakuza, right?
Yes.
And he's been a good shepherd for them. But I do feel like we're going to see more of this. Again, we talked about this earlier. There's not a ton of money in Japanese game development anymore. So you either got to like try to make those products catch on in the West more, and Yakuza's been starting to do that. We've seen other things like Dragon Quest starting to do that. Monster Hunter did it really strongly lately. Then there's like legacy ones that have always been big here, like Final Fantasy and Resident Evil. But the other thing is Tencent could just throw a ton of money at them, because they're also interested in getting more big game development going on there. So it's a little concerning. I feel like it's going to become a trend, though. We're going to see more of this happen. And look, I bet he loves it. It certainly is better than having to take like the Inafune path of leaving and then trying to start a Kickstarter and then realize you can't just make a game on your own very easily. So, Sega will still make Yakuza. There'll be other people who will step in, so maybe it'll just work out fine for everybody.
Yeah, and real quick, it's a correction. It was NetEase, not Tencent.
Really?
Yeah. So, but basically the same.
I thought it was Tencent too for some reason.
They're both Chinese conglomerates with a lot of money who make a lot of games. So, So NetEase, it's basically the same story though. And that makes sense. They have a lot of money. They want to continue to make this stuff. I just also, if you're negotiating, you're looking around, being like, okay, yeah, we're successful at Sega, but that's kind of a weird thing, being successful at Sega right now, at least making like primarily console games. What could I do if I was like in a structure and a publisher that was just like globally successful at everything they do? But NetEase has also got a very specific idea of what games look like. So while maybe he would be able to make his dream project, maybe his dream project would have to fit into a certain sort of free-to-play style. And does that work? But I mean, I bet he'd be able to adapt to that if he had to.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the weirdness of China like cracking down on video games again right now, right?
I'll talk about a little bit. Yeah, but yeah,
that might make me a little uneasy about going over. But hey,
right,
it's up to him.
Let's see. So we have some Nintendo news. Let's start here with the rumor that Game Boy games might get added to the Nintendo Switch.
And Game Boy Color games.
That's what I said.
Separate.
Game Boy games.
Wow. I saw Grubb Snacks. You ran that same poll.
I didn't run it, to be fair. Someone else wrote it.
Over there, and if that one was like the same ratio, but in favor of me, which proves my theory that one MVG probably sent minions to sabotage my poll, but also that people just vote against me because they think it's funny when I get mad.
Yeah, that's it's definitely something I've used against you in the past and will do so in the future.
It's like that last episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Worf's like, "Oh, Picard, you always use my sense of honor against me." The Picard like screams, "Because it always works, Worf! Because it always works."
All right, so yeah, I like the idea that you're my Worf here, so that's good.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, the Nintendo Switch Online. This started with Nate the Hate and MVG over on the Nate the Hate podcast. They basically speculated about it, but you could tell that there was some more to that. Nintendo Life then said that they could corroborate that speculation, and then today Eurogamer did the same thing and separately corroborated and said Game Boy and Game Boy Color is going to happen soon. The speculation is specifically that it will happen this month, maybe as soon as next week.
So that certainly makes you think that a Nintendo Direct is also on the way, huh?
Right, and I mean that just lines up with everything. All of the arrows point to that. There's I guess we'll just jump. Like Monolith's website is getting updated on September 8th. Like they're going offline and they're going to come back online the next day.
Chronicles 3 is getting announced.
Right, exactly. That's what everyone said. Like, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe, developers should be able to update their websites sometimes without us freaking out. But
time for me to update that draft for that Silk Song story, baby.
Yeah, one more time. Let's roll the dice one more time for Silk Song. Yeah, maybe that. So yeah, I think that all that stuff's kind of lining up, but. We talked about Game Boy games a lot on the most recent Nintendogs because we did our favorite Game Boy games on there. But I guess, what do you want to see? What are your hopes for this?
Oh, Donkey Kong 94 is the game that first comes to mind. I want to see that because everyone talk about their favorite Game Boy games recently, like through us and through other things, and not nearly enough people. Almost no one says Donkey Kong 94, and that is like kind of the correct answer. I know I still say Pokemon Red. I think that's the issue. A lot of people do because that just like dominated their childhood. But man, if you haven't played Donkey Kong 94, yeah, you're gonna get on that real fast. But there's also like a lot of like games that I haven't really checked out before. Like I haven't really played very much of the original Metroid 2. That'll be interesting. And just seeing like what weird stuff gets thrown on there, man. It's gonna be great. And on the Game Boy Color side, I know Shantae probably won't be like on there because it just actually had like a real re-release. But there's plenty of stuff. I remember there was like a 2D Bomberman game that was a launch game for the Game Boy Color. I want to play that again. Weird stuff like that. Oh,
Wario's Woods and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just all the every single one of those Wario Land games that's going to be super fantastic. And 6 golden coins, the original one. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff there. I would also really like to see the OG Link's Awakening. They can put the OG Link's Awakening and the DX on there, and that'll be really interesting. That'll be a lot of fun.
The one thing there is they are releasing that handheld, the Zelda handheld, that has 1 and 2 and Link's Awakening on it. So I'm like,
here's the interesting thing: is what do they do with the Oracle games? Do you just throw that on here, or is that something that like we kind of want to maybe remake those someday? I don't know. Like, what do you do with the Oracle games?
And if you're gonna if that's what's happening, like you got to announce those remakes now because otherwise it's going to be just kind of a bit like a glaring omission.
Well, I mean, hey, Earthbound's a glaring omission.
Yeah, but probably for the same reason, though. Probably for the same reason.
Glaring omissions.
You're right.
They would also have to do something so that it could recognize when you beat the one so that you get the true ending on the other, like those games. Man, those Oracle games, oof, they're good.
So I asked on YouTube, I did a poll before the show. We'll probably have another poll here pretty soon. But for the Game Boy stuff specifically, I said, which of these is the best Game Boy game? Link's Awakening, Super Mario Land 2, Pokemon Gold, Silver, Red, Blue, Tetris, or Donkey Kong 94? Mike, which one do you think finished last? Because you know which one finished first.
I think I did see that. I think Donkey Kong finished last. Yeah,
so
that's what I'm talking about. That's wrong.
That's wrong. It was 7% of the vote. And while Link's Awakening is my favorite, Donkey Kong 94 is number 2. Donkey Kong 94 on any given day probably could jump up to number 1 for me because more people just need to play that game is what it is.
It must be the most underrated Nintendo game ever. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think so. I think that might be true. I mean, because it's one of the best games ever made, period. So yeah. Super Mario Land 2 was second from the last with 9%. Then it jumps up to 18% for Link's Awakening, 19% for Tetris, and then Pokemon at 48%, of course. I mean, that just covers so many Pokemon games, but we knew that would happen.
Right, that's the other thing. It's like, man, did you just put Pokemon like Silver, Gold, and Crystal on there? Because again, like we could do the Let's Go thing or just another remake again with those. Like, why give people some access to? And before they did just release Pokemon Red and Blue on the 3DS, right? So there's some precedent for that, but I don't know. And I'm sure that's why this stuff is slow. It's because so often they're like, "Why are we just like throwing this stuff in this package? Well, maybe we could do something bigger and more interesting and more exciting about with it." I don't know. Well, I mean, and then there are some things that are kind of off like the Castlevania Game Boy games. It's the same reason why we don't see the Castlevania games on Nintendo Switch Online for the Super Nintendo stuff. It's already in a separate package that Konami is selling. They don't want it on there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's the big reason why we're talking about Game Boy and Game Boy Color. I think Nintendo does believe that there's still money to be made by selling a lot of those Game Boy Advance games again, repackaging them in one way or the other and selling them again. While Game Boy and Game Boy Color have probably just moved past the freshness date that Nintendo would say, hey, could we repackage these and sell them? In some cases, yeah, we could. I mean, obviously the Pokemon games have some appeal here and there, but for the most part, like putting this stuff in Nintendo Switch Online is probably the right move. But we don't see N64. We're probably not going to see Game Boy Advance in there because they're so much more valuable to sell those games to us again in something like Super Mario 3D All Stars. Okay,
there's some Mega Man games from Game Boy and Game Boy. Mega Man 5 on Game Boy, the Mega Man Extreme games on Game Boy Color. Give it to me. I'm ready, because those are not in any of the Mega Man bundles you can buy right now. So.
I would say we get a bunch of super chats. We're going to get to those very soon, right after the news. We got a few more stories to get through. We did touch on the Monolith website update. That's it does fit into this story. But the other thing here that Nintendo had to happen this week is they announced a new video game, which I almost just kind of missed because it's such a a minor thing. It's Big Brain Academy, which is back, and it's coming out December 3rd. So they got a game coming out this year. This is kind of one of the cousin games to Brain Age or whatever, which there was a Brain Age game released for the Switch in every other territory except for North America. Yeah, which the reason that happened, like people wonder why they never released it here. I could tell you why, because we have FDA kind of regulations around saying a game can make your brain younger. And so you have to prove that stuff. There's a lot of trouble with websites. We have the websites. I can't there used to see advertisements for them all the time, but I'd be like, hey, subscribe here and lower your brain age, literally is kind of how they would put it. So Brain Age never came out here. Big Brain Academy is being treated as sort of a puzzle game that you play with friends and you could test your brain against other people. I don't think they're making claims about improving your brain's quality or anything like that. Yes. So they're going to be able to release that here, and it's coming. But Big Brain Academy, for people who aren't aware, this kind of came out originally on the DS, and then I think there was a Wii version, and then we didn't get anything on the Wii U or anything like that, or the 3DS. But now they're bringing it back. And Mike, how excited are you?
Not very at all.
Did you even notice this one? Did you see it?
No, okay. I'm learning about this right now.
Okay, cool. I actually saw some people talk about Big Brain Academy, and I'm like, that's weird. And I did not realize they were talking about it because Nintendo announced a new one. And then when I was looking for news today, that's when I learned about it. So, yeah, I'm right there in the same boat with you. Other Nintendo news, they reached an agreement with Forever Entertainment. And I'm just going to read the quote here. In accordance with provisions of the agreement, Forever Seed Fund, in cooperation with Nintendo, shall seek for developers with particular focus but not limited to Eastern Europe, including Poland, who own, conduct, or plan to develop innovative and high-quality games. Forever Seed Fund shall cooperate with selected developers for games to be published on the Nintendo Switch. Basically, it sounds like, to translate that to human language, they're going to look for developers to make Nintendo games in Eastern Europe, which, okay, cool, that's a good idea. So, that'll happen.
That's interesting, huh? I wonder if they're looking for people to actually make Nintendo games or to make Nintendo remakes and ports.
Yeah, I mean, could probably be a combination of all of those things. I mean, the Nintendo does need more studios sort of working on stuff because, they can get into slumps where they don't have a lot of first-party games coming out, and this could solve it. All right, so let's get into some, less platform-related news. China is instituting a 3-hour limit on gaming per week for minors. Mike alluded to this earlier. This is not it's not something super new. Before this, they had a limit, and it was a little bit longer. But basically, kids could play games for 1.5 hours per night on certain nights of the week, and now that's limited to 1 hour on Fridays, I think, or something like that. It's pretty wild. I know that this is not necessarily something that we can look at and say all of China is weird about games, but but it's still, this is a weird thing to read.
It's always I'm always a little hesitant to talk about China because it's a completely different world, right?
Yes.
Like I don't understand how things really work there. But it's clear there's been a crackdown lately on some of the stuff. They're cracking down on like effeminate men being portrayed in media is something else that's going on there. There's a story about like a major female celebrity there who's like disappeared because she did something to upset the government. So she basically went into hiding or got scrubbed from the internet. So weird sounding stuff. And it's weird because China's not like some weird backward country necessarily. This is like one of the biggest countries in the world. It's a global superpower, and to see like their take on kind of certain freedoms be so different, it's a little weird because this in 100 years it could very much be a majorly China-led world, and maybe like stuff like this becomes the norm, and it seems regressive.
Yeah, and it's and while United States, where me and Mike are from, definitely have our regressions,
Yes.
they're often sort of laughed out. Like they're sort of naturally laughed out of the discourse, where Hillary Clinton and Joseph Lieberman come along and are worried about Mortal Kombat and Night Trap and all this stuff, and we humor them a little bit, and the industry humors them and says, okay, yeah, we'll institute some policies to stop stores from selling some of these games to kids. But what else do you want us to do? And they're like, well, all these other things, try to get all this blood out of games. And everyone's like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. And a few years later, we look up on back on that period, and it is a punchline at this point. And that's what I'm accustomed to. That's my culture. So when I see something that is so much more seriously regressive than that, it's hard for me not to have cultural shock.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, just what exactly, like, are the parents keeping this, like, super seriously? Are they, like, watching their kids playing, like, okay, your 1 hour is up for Friday, like, you're done? I know, like, some of it is just controlled by, like, the internet, like, for internet games, but not everything's connected to the internet. Or is this just a thing that, like, even, like, a lot of people do, obviously not very publicly, but roll their eyes at a bit and just kind of like let their kids play as many games as they want. I think
there's a combination of factors. So what I've read is that this comes down to developers in China having to implement these regulations. So developers need to make sure kids create accounts, and you have to like submit government IDs and stuff like that. But then there is like a huge gray market where something like Steam, if you get a VPN, you can get on Steam, like, Western Steam, not the Chinese Steam, and Steam has nothing in there to stop you from playing games whenever you want. So you can just go play those games as much as you want. I will say that, like, while people, I see some people chat saying, oh, it's a communist country, this is what communist countries do. Texas just eliminated all abortion rights for women. So, like, that's a capitalist country, a democracy, kind of taking away people's civil rights. So these kinds of things can happen anywhere. And this country also did try to implement a lot of laws to limit video games. So I don't know. I don't think we're that special in terms of avoiding these things because we have democracy or something like that. But that doesn't mean it's not a shame that when a country does sort of crack down on these things in a way that does seem so regressive. Okay. See, I had Knuble help me put this news together. So, Mike, I'm going to say these words, and if they don't mean anything to you, they don't mean anything to me, and we can just move on. Sol Cresta, the Platinum Shmup, will launch on December 9th. Now, I'm assuming that means Platinum Games shoot 'em up, Sol Cresta, but I don't know anything about this game.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. Man, that's a whole genre I feel like 5 years from now I'm going to suddenly explore and get into a lot more. Basically, my entire experience with shmups was thinking that Ikaruga was pretty cool back when I had it on the Dreamcast, but also hard. I kind of like want to like get into playing the ones. I know you're playing UN Squadron, and that's something I mean to do. I was playing a little bit of Thunder Force 4 on the Genesis, which is like a really, really good one, and having fun with that. So someday I want to, but I'm almost not as interested in newer ones unless I hear something really exciting about it. And hey, if it's from Platinum, maybe it will be. December 9th, that's one day after Halo. Obviously, different games. Even no matter what game I was making, I wouldn't want to come out too close to Halo.
Wait. Did you say it's one day after Halo?
Well, one day after my birthday.
I was so shocked that you didn't say one day after my birthday.
I'm not as egotistical as you think, Jeff.
I'm like, in this one instance, I suppose not.
Look. I know how I be. But...
All right, I was just shocked there. I was like speechless for just a second. All right, Tokyo Game Show's coming up. A lot of people keep asking me what to expect from this, and the way I put it, I think on Grub Snacks is, In the way that Gamescom was slightly more this year than it has been in the past few years, that's kind of what I expect for Tokyo Game Show. But that's it. I wouldn't expect a ton of new announcements. What do you think, Mike? Are we going to get a big blowout at Tokyo Game Show?
Again, I mean, I feel like we haven't had giant news things happen at Tokyo Game Show for a while. Maybe I'm just forgetting. But no, I'm not really expecting anything major here. I'm like, we'll hear something about some very Japanese, like, maybe Tales of Arise will have something else to show here. But I'm almost expecting more of like the depressing stuff where it's like, this Breath of Fire is back as a mobile game, or Shining Force is back as a mobile game, right? Like that's
the depressing stuff. Yes, totally. I think Christian in chat is suggesting it. Do you think this is where we get the Persona news this month?
Yeah, I guess like one of those things must line up with this, right? So something now. Which one is it? They have a bunch of announcements. I assume ports. I assume at some point, Persona 6 will get announced. I don't know that. Again, when Persona 5 was announced, it was a picture, and then we didn't hear anything about that game for a while, and it took years for it to actually come out. So, who knows? That would be the biggest thing that can happen here if Persona 6 shows up.
And Xbox will have a presence at Tokyo Game Show, so just kind of reading the tea leaves there. Maybe this is where they announce Persona 5 available on Xbox Game Pass.
That could make sense. Yeah,
that makes sense, but we'll see. Finally, and I'm putting this there just because I'm getting the urge to play it again after seeing this update. No Man's Sky is getting another update called Frontiers, where there's populated cities, and to me, it just looks like even so much more dynamic than it has been, as with all the other updates. So I'm like, I kind of want to go in and see what this game feels like now, where like you can go to a frontier city in space and see what interact with characters. But
I admire how all the updates they've been doing in this game and how they turn it around. It's still, I still just don't think it's a game for me, really.
Yeah,
so
probably not.
I still don't really feel like a big desire to like go in and check it out. But good for them.
Right. Okay, Mike, I'm done with all of the news, and that means I need to remember to open the Discord questions. So while I'm doing that, do you want to get to the super chats?
Absolutely. Evan Dance started off here with just asking for thoughts on Hotline Miami. Man, I never played the Hotline Miami game, but I don't really carry a torch for those like old school top-down Grand Theft Auto games either. So I never really cared that much. Did you play Hotline Miami?
I think I've played it a little bit. I've always meant to go back, but I think when it kind of came out, I missed it, and so it's been hard to go back. But I've always admired it from a distance, where I'm like, hey, this has a style to it that I enjoy. But I might try it someday. I haven't really.
Yeah, Evan Dance also asked, is Hideo Kojima's Xbox game a horror game?
I don't know, and like I've said before, I think very few people know. I think it's still pretty early. I think the idea is just they're going to announce that they're working on a project together, and that project might not have much formation beyond the idea of using the cloud.
Kung Fu Hot Dog says, hey, Jeff and Mike, happy Friday. Do you think Battlefield 2042 will finally get its victory over COD, since some outlets are meh about COD Vanguard? No. Call of Duty is still going to be the best-selling game of this year. It has been forever. I think the only time it wasn't was I forget, something came out when Ghost came out and it wasn't a big hit, and I forget, it was like Red Dead Redemption or something, but something else came out. Maybe it was Grand Theft Auto, I forget. There's 1 year where it wasn't, and that was it. I mean, the major outlets haven't been super high or busy covering the Call of Duty games now for
a long time.
Years. Unless you're like IGN, you get like all these exclusives, right? Because those games have a very core audience that they're going to get it. They're not necessarily going to GamesBeat.com to read a story about Call of Duty.
Yeah, and this is sort of thing where like it. The next game is where you see those dividends. If Battlefield 2042 is beloved and this Call of Duty is sort of maligned, then you would see it with the next game. But the thing is Battlefield 2042 is going to be the Battlefield game for the next 3 to 4 years, and they won't have another one next year, and Call of Duty will have another one next year. So even then, Call of Duty is going to be fine. We'll have a chance to recover. The taste of Vanguard will have washed away from most people's mouths if it is an issue by the time there's another Battlefield. So it's just they're not in the same fight anymore, and so it's not going to make much of a difference.
I think Battlefield's going to do well, but
yes,
they're just not going to top Call of Duty. Afro Ahmed asks, are we going to get a Bloodborne remaster or a 60 FPS patch at Sony's event? The 60 FPS patch sure would seem like an easy victory, huh?
Mm-hmm. The thing I've said before about this is that I think that the Bloodborne update would require like From Software to hand the keys over to like a studio to handle that stuff if they can't do it themselves. And handing over the keys is going to have some issues because From would need to introduce that studio to like whatever quirks of their game exist. And I think that From has been too busy with Elden Ring to do that stuff. But as we get closer to Elden Ring's release, maybe there's a chance that that happens now.
Brett Brigham asks you, Jeff, did you see my Halo Skeletor post? I mentioned you in on Twitter. I asked if I could do it, not if I should do it. And he also puts parentheses that it looks awful.
Brett, no, I missed it. So I'm gonna try to track it down right now and take a look. I love Skeletor.
Yeah. Space Dovacan, who I think is trolling us, asks, guys, can we expect a big show from Sony? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Oh, you know what? I was like reading this wrong. I thought because every single week now for a while, I was like, when can we expect a Sony show? I think he's just asking us if this show will be big. It'll be a big show. It'll be a big show.
I think there's every reason to get your hopes up for this one.
Yes. There's got to be something exciting here. They know it's been a while. Again, they're not advertising this as a direct. They're advertising it as an event. Moto Mufti asks, hi guys, what is the appropriate level of expectation for the PlayStation event? Same thing. Hi, I think you should have high expectations.
Yep.
I mean, don't go crazy here, right? But like, be reasonable.
I think it's the time to go crazy. Yeah, because they're not checking expectations at all. So like if they deliver, now is the time for your next E3 of Dreams level hype for something like this. So we'll see.
Ariel Delgado says, do you think we'll see a revival of an old Sony IP at State of Play? Personally, I'd like for Jack and Daxter, but good. Ouch. Or a Sly Cooper to come back. What was Black Jack and Daxter? There's that PSP one. Lost Frontier. I don't know how people feel about that one. I don't. Jack and Daxter and Sly. I mean, Jack and Daxter. What would we want from that? We want Naughty Dog back on that. I think that'd be amazing. I would personally even like it if they went back to more of the pure 3D platform style of the first game, as opposed to doing the Ratchet and Clank like hybrid shooter thing. I just don't know if that is what Naughty Dog is going to be up to. Sly Cooper, I don't know, that's kind of an awkward one because they did again, I don't think Sucker Punch is going to do that. I know they brought in that other studio to do that last one. I don't know how well that last one did. That didn't have Sucker Punch involved. So I don't know. I'm not really expecting an old Sony IP revival here. I mean, aside from those two, I don't know what you do. And again, a lot of those things were more Japanese at the time, and they closed a lot of those studios. They let go of a lot of those developers. They are very much focused on these big Western AAA franchises now, and things like Ape Escape and Sly Cooper that seemed really important back in the day are gone. That's what's kind of special about Ratchet and Clank now. It's one of the few ties to an older PlayStation era, even if it's just PlayStation 2. Jeff, are you still just looking for this tweet and doing a bad job of double tasking?
No, I gave up looking for the tweet, and I just agreed with everything you said, so I figured I wouldn't chime in just to repeat it.
And that's fine. I was just making sure, because in my mind, I'm just looking at Super Chats, I can just see listen,
tweet? Listen, Mike, you're right to be that way. That's you're absolutely right to be worried that that's what's happening, 100% of the time, yes. So, yeah. But in this case, I was just like, hey, I'm listening to what Mike's saying.
Dolly Dimovsky.
Dimovsky, I think?
Dimovsky, yes.
Just call him Dolly. We're friends. Hi, Dolly.
No, man. It's this whole name there. I'm gonna say it right, even if it doesn't take me a first try or beyond a first try. He says, "You guys do amazing work. Even Mike, heart. Thank you for being honest and funny." And then in parentheses, looking, and that's fair. Thank you, Dolly. Hargi Chani says, "What is it with Sony and requiring a PhD to agree to engage with them? SSD fiasco, Ghost of Tsushima, now Horizon. Can't they just make this easier?"
I mean, a lot of that stuff's overblown. You don't I know you're being facetious. You don't need a PhD. Most people are going to understand this problem. People aren't as stupid as we make them out to be, but it's still not good from Sony. It still just looks greedy, honestly, is what it looks like.
All right. Hargate also asks, are the exclusives really that compelling now? Is the PlayStation catalog that much better than Nintendo and Xbox? Can you really recommend PlayStation at this point? I think the exclusives are still pretty compelling.
They're
I think
definitely compelling.
It hurts this year that they are a little slow on them. You still had Ratchet and Clank, and look, right. I think Ratchet and Clank I think it moved the needle a little bit there. I know it wasn't the biggest seller ever, but that got a lot of eyes on Sony and like, oh wow, look at like how next gen this stuff is, and it's hard for that to translate into more sales right now because there's already a shortage. But I think it translates into even more people wanting to get a PlayStation 5 down the line. Alejandro Molina says, hello, gents. Jeff, do you know why Forza Horizon 1 through 3 are not on Game Pass? Is it because of the music licensing?
It's because of the car licensing. So the car licensing, this is, I mean, I think they already said they're going to delist 4 here pretty soon. So at least a purchase. I wonder if probably off of Game Pass soon.
That's a bummer.
The car licensing just works this way. You can only have it for a certain set of years. That's the way these car companies want it. It stinks, it's stupid, but that's just the way that the car industry is, and it's going to continue to be that way, it seems like. So it's a bummer, but yeah. The tough thing there is if you start playing these games on Game Pass and you get DLC, then what do? Well, I think the good news here with Forza Horizon 4 is they said if you purchase any DLC, I think you can get the base game for free. Double check me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what they said, though.
I almost want to do that because, like, it sucks. It's one thing with the Horizon Motorsport games because, like, usually the next one's just better, right? So you want that, but like the Horizon games, they all take place in these different locations. Yes. They have separate character to them, and I'm still kind of like I want to play the Australia one. Like, even though I think 5 is better in a lot of ways, I just am more interested in that Australia landscape than the England one sometimes. Yeah, so I want to go back to that one more.
Yeah, chat's saying it's Forza Motorsport 7 that's being delisted.
Okay.
And that's a little bit older, so that makes more sense. Like, that's about the right amount of time. So it takes some years, but yeah, that's what happens to these things eventually. It's just hard to get the car industry to agree to new things.
Game Over Brian says, hey guys, I have 2 questions. Did either one of you try the PlayStation 5 beta yet? Yes. I have not tried. You did? How's that?
It's good. I mean, is there a specific question here? Because like, yeah, I tried it. I put in that 4 terabyte SSD. It worked. It's good. I'm still doing testing. I'm hoping to have a story out early next week about like the load times and everything on there. But it's fine. But I would imagine that the beta test is coming to a close pretty soon, and they're actually going to launch this stuff in the next couple of weeks. So you don't have to try to get into it at this point if you don't want to.
The second question is for me. When upgrading Final Fantasy VII Remake, do trophies pop up automatically? I think I reprimanded him last week for asking you that question and not me. Yes. Yes.
Thank you for asking, though.
Mike Hudson. Whoa, Grubb said Earthbound might be missing, quote, for the same reason as Oracle games. Jeff, explain. Potential remake?
Like, listen, this is my gut telling me that one of the reasons that they don't put Earthbound on here and they're holding back Earthbound, and I talked about this on Grub Snacks yesterday, is they only get one chance to actually make that move. They hold these cards close to their chest because when they do play them, I think in a lot of cases, and this is what I think is definitely happening with the Metroid Prime trilogy, where they're like, okay, we have it done, we have it ready, we could just put it out whenever, but why wouldn't we hold it and put it out when it fits into our overall plan for the franchise, which would be closer to the release of Metroid Prime 4 as a build-up in the marketing for that, where the game would probably sell even better because there's more people looking to get back into the franchise. I don't necessarily think that Nintendo is actively working on anything Earthbound related, but I do think that Nintendo does believe there's a chance it could go back to Earthbound and Mother at some point, and therefore is kind of holding back on, like, you know, releasing Mother 3, an English translation of Mother 3, because they only get one chance to sort of introduce that stuff to the Western audience. So they're going to hold off until they're ready. And even if they're never ready, they're still going to hold off onto it, and just in case they might change their mind on that stuff. So, and I think the Oracle's the reason I said it's the same thing as the Oracle games, because I think they might be doing the same thing with the Oracle games. If the Oracle games don't show up on Game Boy and Game Boy Color with this stuff, it's because that's what they're having the Link's Awakening remake team work on next, which would just make so much sense.
Here's a question: what do they call Mother 3 when and if they finally bring it?
I know.
Are they going to keep it Mother 3 at this point, or are they going to call it Earthbound 2? Because they called Mother 1 what Earthbound Origins 0. When they finally.
Was it Origins or 0?
I think you're right. I think it's Earthbound 0. So yeah, like it'll be weird to see that as Earthbound 2. You know, once again though, Earthbound, better name than Mother. Like it's
absolutely.
like a Resident Evil Biohazard thing.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Earthbound's a great name. That cover art, yeah, it's really good. Mother's fine, but
it's fine, I guess. Brap, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, just says, Grubb and Mike,
Brap.
Happy Friday. Cheers. Cheers to you too, sir.
Thanks, Brap.
Benji Nazawi, if Sony has a big show next week, will Nintendo feel pressured to have a big September Direct? Can we expect 3D Mario or Mario Kart level news? I don't think they feel pressured by Sony, but I think we are going to get a direct because it's about that time and they have some things to announce, like probably Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't know about, again, that's the big question, is what is that Mario Odyssey team up to? And apparently I feel like it's either going to be Odyssey 2 or it's going to be that rumored Donkey Kong Country game. I'm hoping for Odyssey 2. That would make me more excited. And let's say, if this Donkey Kong game comes out and it's a 3D game and it looks really cool, that'll be neat. If it's like the Mario team is working on a 2D Donkey Kong game, like it better look really, really good.
It better be mind blowing. I agree. I know for some reason in chat everyone's talking about Jim Ryan being a Coke guy, which I agree
there's
with.
a question. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what were we talking about? Oh yes. So Nintendo's not going to feel pressured by Sony pretty much ever. They're just in completely different orbits around gaming. Sony's going to put out Horizon Forbidden West, and it's like, if that game does the Luigi's Mansion 3 numbers, it's going to be like a huge success. So they're just in a completely different world than
it's
one another.
Saying that.
Yes, that's I'm like laughing to myself.
Luigi Mansion 3 numbers.
Right.
That would sell 10 million copies.
Right. Exactly. So it's like they're just it's completely different.
Like,
Nintendo does not feel stressed.
It could sell like another million or two this Halloween, and for like all future Halloweens as long as the Switch is a thing.
Right. You're going to continue to be one of my favorite thoughts to have. Is like, if a game can just do as good as Luigi's Mansion 3 just for this entire generation. Yeah. So, yep.
Good Morning Games asks, has Hogwarts Legacy gone silent because of the controversy around rolling? Do you think that game gets shelved indefinitely? I don't really think that's why. I think they're just deep into development on that one, right?
I think it's probably a factor.
Maybe.
It's a factor probably in why, like, hey, unless we're really ready to talk about this game, do we want to come out and just like kind of shoot like small little bullets of information? Like, no, but it's not going to get shelved indefinitely. That's not going to happen.
Kafu Hot Dog says, hey fellas, Gamescom named Elden Ring Game of the Year, game of the show, when it's not even released yet. Have they been privy to footage the public hasn't seen yet? Yes, they had to submit like a reel. I forget how long it was, but some preview outlets also saw
15 minutes,
15 minutes, and some people have seen it. So yeah, in order to be eligible for like the game of the show thing at Gamescom, you had to submit something like that apparently. So I don't think they're releasing that to the public, which is too bad, but
at least anytime soon,
yeah, footage exists. Uriel Delgado asks, would people hate it if Nintendo made an Earthbound remake that looked like the Link's Awakening remake, make them look like the old toys? I don't think people would hate it.
I don't think they'd hate it. It might have some backlash, but while I think there probably are a lot of Earthbound / Mother purists, I think most of them would be open to that idea if it just meant getting more Earthbound / Mother.
I think they just want more Earthbound. And like that's how that kind of seems to work for Earthbound pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It does fit really well with that. So, I think you'd have to do like a slight tweak here and there, but it could like in terms of like the color palette. But I think they could pull it off. Yeah.
Jeremy G asks, are Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan Coke or Pepsi guys? I get Coke vibes from Spencer and more of a Pepsi thing going on with Jim Ryan. What about you?
I tend to agree with that. Like, yeah, like where's Phil Spencer from? Kind of like he seems like he's from the East. I don't think he's from Seattle, but maybe he is. And if he's from like anywhere out East, it's probably a Coke or Coke guy. But if we're talking about cocaine, then yeah, Jim Ryan's a cocaine guy for sure. Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's it for the super chats, Jeff. We did it.
All right. Well, I've got a bunch of questions here from our Discord, so we're going to hop right into those. As a reminder, if you ever want to ask a question through the Discord, you just got to go to patreon.com/JeffGrubb, which gets you into the podcast producers channel. And then there's a link in there to submit a question as a Google form. Let's start here with Delta Prime 84. I'll preface this by saying I'm not sure if iRacing is right for me or not, so my mind is not made up. Anyway, some people consider iRacing's payment model predatory. It's $13 per month for access to the game. On top of that, you need to buy access to each car for $12 US and each track for between $12 and $15. All of this on an aging game that requires third-party mods to run well on modern hardware, but it's still the most populated online racing sim. Do you consider this payment model predatory, and what are some examples of games where you would draw the line between expensive monetization and predatory?
Predatory is, that's rough. I don't know if it's super. I'm always a little I always raise an eyebrow at games that have a subscription and also pretty intense microtransactions within that. And for things like cars and racetracks, so like Final Fantasy 14, which I play a lot, there's a subscription for that, and there is a store, but the things you buy from the store are either cosmetic or sort of service related things, like like a level boost, or a potion that lets you change your character's race and stuff like that. If it was like, hey, you need to and you pay for the expansions too, I guess, right? So like maybe that's comparable, but those are pretty big things. So there's a line that again, that sounds like a little crossing the line to me. I don't know if I'm gonna go say full on predatory, but I don't know if I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I think this game is from a different world. It is like a sim, and like if you were to go to someone who was on a trucking simulator that's meant to like teach people how to like drive a big Mac truck or whatever, and you said, hey, that looks like a video game, they would get mad because they spent like $15,000 on the thing or whatever, and they're like, no, it's a simulator. And I think iRacing comes from that world where it is very much made to appeal to a certain audience that just wants to race in a simulated racing world and do not even often consider themselves gamers otherwise. So does that, what does that mean one way or the other? I mean, it means that like a lot of the people playing in that world understand that one of the only ways that you get certain cars is you have to pay for them individually, because we talked a little about this with the Forza stuff, the licensing. Like each car has to have a specific licensing, and those deals are made car by car a lot of times when you're talking about these sims. So it's the one way that keeps that whole world going. Now, you would hope that they would be able to use that money to improve the game and make it so you don't require mods and all this stuff. But if there's not a lot of other competition in that space, that's kind of what ends up happening. And is that expensive monetization or predatory? I think everybody has to decide their own line there. But if it's the only option on the block and it's getting the job done, in most cases, it's just like the monetization that's required to make the cookie crumble or whatever. That was a mixed metaphor, but oh well. Pinball RJ says, does Mike like Mega Man because they have the same initials? Also, why is he called Mega Man when he looks like an 8-year-old boy?
Man, I tell you what, that thought probably crossed my mind back when I was 4. Look, he's a robot. You can't assign your age restriction things on him. He's beyond that. Mega Man's a great name. The only thing that was stupid was when they did Mega Man Powered Up. And like it's so the remake of Mega Man 1, instead of being like, oh, you're Rock and now you're Mega Man, because it was Rock to Rockman, like, oh, your first name was just Mega, but now that you're stronger, you're Mega Man. It's like nobody would just name a person Mega, especially when he was supposed to just be like a lab assistant. That was stupid.
All right, let's see. We got one from Nick Turbo. Have either of you heard anything about DN?
DN.
Wait, careful. Be careful.
Oh no.
I don't know if it is, but just be careful because I don't know.
I'm curious.
DN. I don't know.
These
nuts.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Come on. I fell for your trap. What was it?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What is DN?
What is DN?
Is that like TN's brother from Dragon Ball?
Christian's laughing. All right. While they wait to own us, Jake. We can't understand you.
Yeah, get a mic. Get a mic.
He tried to jump into the Discord to yell at us, and we couldn't understand what he was saying. All right, whatever. Jake Bogdanov, as Mike always points out, Miles Sold is selling really well on PS5 with dual entitlement. I know Spider-Man makes it a kind of a bad example, but why would Sony not do it with Horizon? Is the potential boost in money, if even significant, really worth the dick move? We don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there must be somebody pretty high up at Sony who's just really concerned about these things. It's like, why not just, encourage people to buy a game twice? Like, they should have to, why should this be cheap? It's a separate game and it's a big thing. I don't know. Somebody up there, high up, has some weird opinions about all this, and I think that's impacting all of us.
Oh, man. He just said DN just stands for D's nuts. So I feel like we're not fully owned there. I feel like that one doesn't work.
I tell you what, I don't know, Nick Turbo. I don't know.
I feel like we were allowed to decide whether or not we were owned, and in this situation, I don't feel owned is the thing. That's the thing here.
Ligma level.
That's not Ligma level. No,
or Suckty. When I got Jeff with Suckty, he got destroyed. That was a nuclear bomb. But
Yeah, I have still got the burns. All right, another one from Jake. Mike, what is your pick for worst AEW JRPG sign take?
Oh, oh my gosh. Wow, that's probably that Quest 64 is better than Final Fantasy 8 one. That was pretty good. Come on.
That's bad.
Yeah, that I mean, look, all the ones that are just like Final Fantasy 8 is bad are a little rough there. So I don't know. When I wanted to make my own sign, but then ultimately I realized that I'm lazy and I didn't want to like lug a sign around all day. The very first time I went to a wrestling show, I brought a sign and it was fun that one time, but otherwise it's like and then I'm like worried like, oh, people behind me can't see.
I know, yeah, that's how I would feel too. That's a very Midwest thing. Not that there's not people holding signs at Midwest shows, but I just be like, I just feel like a dick. Is how I feel.
Yeah.
All right, this is from the biggest Patreon supporter, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to come out and defend the PlayStation 5 this week. Jim Ryan asks, or told me, I told you not to leak the date for the State of Play, Grubb. I'm sorry, wow. I couldn't help it.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. All I get is yelled at by Jim. I'm sorry, Jim. All right, Delta Prime 84 with a couple. Delta has gone from a Greek letter that sounds cool to representing a deadly virus. Should I change my handle everywhere? I'm not having the same vibes that I have when I still go to drink a Corona. When I go to drink a Corona, I still have those vibes a little bit.
I think, Delta's fine. I mean, in this case, like the Delta, I assume that just literally meant that it's the fourth variant or something.
Like one of the one of the fourth level variants or something like that. We're not doctors.
3 or 4. I can never remember.
Delta's 4 because it's D, right?
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Yeah, alpha. Yeah, delta quadrant. Yeah, Star Trek. Alpha quadrant, beta quadrant, gamma quadrant, delta quadrant. It's 4. There we go.
Always go back to Star Trek for your education. Is what we've learned for today. And then Delta asks, have you heard anything about why Epic has been so slow in adding features to and improving the performance of the Epic Games launcher? I'm finding it rather frustrating how slow they are making improvements, so I find myself buying games on Steam instead of Epic.
They're spending all that money on their lawyers.
Yeah, I think they're spending money on lawyers. They're spending money on getting exclusive games, and they find that moves the needle way more than making slight improvements to the platform, which is a shame.
Speaking of Star Trek, oh my gosh, I got to change my calendar.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited to see what it is. So while he's doing that, Eric says, which studio is making that Twisted Metal? The same one that did Destruction All Stars? I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll find out. Twisted Metal could show up there as well. All right, let's see. Let's take a look here.
Endurance go through the rings of some Saturn-like planet.
Ooh, okay.
Very
so
nice.
USS Endurance going through the rings of a Saturn. Like that could just be Saturn, right?
I mean, it could. I don't know. I mean, they could go anywhere in half of the galaxy, so I didn't want to, assume anything.
All right. Eric wanted to know if you know who's making that Twisted Metal game that's rumored to be existing. So.
No, I don't know. That's going to be interesting because a lot of people still like Twisted Metal. We haven't had one in a while since that one for PlayStation 3, and that one didn't make a very big dent. It wasn't very good, to be honest. So they had to figure a way to at least get back to the highs of Black on PlayStation 2. Like that's the last one that people really liked was Twisted Metal Black. That was a long time ago.
Yes, and that was like a reboot in itself. But yeah, now that reboot's a really long time ago as well. Mm-hmm. All right, I got a kid yelling at me, Mike. So I'm gonna ask this question for you, and we'll go see if she needs help real quick, and then I'll be right back. So,
okay.
Epic Open World says, so we know that a lot of the Microsoft studios, or we know what they're working on at Microsoft, but we don't know what it is working on. Doom Eternal reviewed well, but the community is divided on some of the things they did to Doom with that game. If you go back in the NPD, it sold well the first month and is never heard from again. Do you think they do a third Doom game or something else? I actually would like them to do a brand new IP. What do you think, Mike? And actually,
I thought about that back when it came out, how it seemed like there was a lot of excitement for Doom Eternal, and then it fell off of sales charts relatively quickly. So yeah, I am curious how well did Doom Eternal do or not. Microsoft has put Doom Guy over all of their publicity stills and all those promotional images since they acquired Bethesda. So I feel like they must have some plans for Doom. I would still expect at least a third one there. Then aside from that, I don't know about new IP. I'm not sure if that's what they want. I think maybe Quake is going to get some kind of a reboot here. They finally started mentioning Quake again because they
Right.
released the first one on a bunch of consoles. Like for a while, they weren't even bringing up Quake when they brought up the fact that they bought Bethesda, and now that seems on the table again. So I think probably just a third Doom still. I think Microsoft's going to want to see what that's like, and if not that, maybe they're going to reboot Quake. I don't know about new IP. I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I think you're right. Like Quake's probably next up for this sort of treatment, which makes sense. It's a big franchise that's important. You don't want it to fall to the wayside and spend years on something else and then go back and be like, oh man, people don't care about Quake anymore. All right, let's see. Benji Bop comes in with our nicknames for this week. Happy Friday, Jeff. Why are you booing me? I'm right, Grubb. And Mike probably wishes he did the Nintendogs podcast with Giant Bomb's audience, Minotti.
Yeah, man, yeah, you guys, come on, shape up. I don't even work with Giant Bomb, and I'm like, yeah, those guys, they have viewers that know what's up.
Right, they pay money to watch Grubb Snacks, and they're like, yeah, they come in with their big pocketbooks. They're freeloaders. Yeah, these dirty freeloaders over on the Nintendogs. All right, let's see what's this question. Do you think we see another Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC starring Sid or Vincent at the PlayStation Showcase before, or do you think it's all hands on deck for Part 2 now?
I think it's all hands on deck for Part 2. I don't think they're going to do another DLC thing. I think that one of the reasons they wanted to do that was to help kind of resell that game on PlayStation 5 and push there for that. I still need to play that. I actually kind of got stuck replaying just Final Fantasy 7 Remake instead, and I want to on PlayStation 5, and I want to finish that now. I'm like halfway through it, and then I'm going to finally play the Yuffie episode, which apparently is very good. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a Sid episode or anything like that. I think we're just going to get the second one, and like maybe that gets announced at the PlayStation show, but maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah. Let's see, Benji Bop for the showcase next week. Over under 1.5 trailers that have confusing verbiage at the end, and the developers then have to clarify later in a tweet. And he says, for reference, we had 3 last year that set Twitter in a frenzy for at least an hour, and that was stuff like the Demon Souls saying something like exclusive just to PlayStation 5, but we're kind of suggesting it could come to PC or something like that. So I'll take the over, because I think there's a good chance there'll be 2 that have confusing text on them.
Yeah, I don't want to go under on that. I'm just going to join you in the over. Sorry.
All right. Epic Open World with another one. Jeff, on Grubb Snacks, you talked about how EA internally feels about Mirror's Edge and not to expect a new game anytime soon. Does EA internally feel the same about Titanfall? Both games in the series did not sell gangbusters and really just have a cult following. Is the industry paying attention to how successful Halo is being free to play to see if it could work for franchises like Titanfall?
I can't feel nearly as rough about Titanfall. I mean, there is some connection there to Apex, and people are still very loud about how much they liked Titanfall 2. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's got to be still discussed.
I think that's generally right. It's not. Mirror's Edge is like an example of a game where they tried to go single player and tried to listen to the audience and sort of fell back on their butts into something that no one was really happy with. Titanfall 2 was critically acclaimed. It's beloved. It's still talked about in a way that Mirror's Edge 2 is not talked about at all. I can't even remember the name of the subtitle.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Yes. And Mirror's Edge is an example for them internally about why they don't do those kinds of games. Titanfall 2 is not an example of anything other than maybe some mismanagement. So they could have done some better marketing. They could have moved the release dates around. And clearly, the path that led them to Titanfall 2 is very similar to the path that led them to Apex Legends. So no, it's not the same internally. Titanfall is something that could return. It's just they are very busy making Apex. They're making Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, and they're working on a third thing that I am having a real hard time finding out what it is. No one will tell me, so it's some big secret project, but it's they're working on a third thing that I don't think is Titanfall, so yeah. All right, Benji Bop with another one. Do you think we finally see a special edition PS5 console, or at the very least, a deluxe pre-order with special side plates announced at the showcase? If not, which is more likely to happen first between those 2 options?
I don't think so yet. I mean, it was a little surprising that Microsoft did do one already, but It's Halo, right? You know, and Sony doesn't have like their Halo coming out soon. As
right.
Like maybe God of War will be close to that. If one's gonna get one, it will be God of War, and they'll just throw some, Norse runes on it or something. But I don't think that even gets announced here.
Right, and Microsoft has had an extra year to like plan out an Xbox special edition, and they're selling it for $550. You know, you get the game, but really, they knew most people were going to just get the game in Game Pass, so they're selling this specifically to get a little bit more money out of Halo super fans, and you know, to give those Halo fans that are waiting for Halo a reason to get the Xbox Series X, and so that stuff's just kind of lining up for them where. The PS5 doesn't have the same sort of thing. Mike's right about that. And then also they just did a revised console, and I bet they're trying to make sure the production lines are all set on that before they then like spool up another one to work on a revision that is also a special edition PS5. So they're probably still a little bit ways off from doing a special edition themselves. I guess. You know, you have a point there that they could just manufacture specifically side plates that are special. I wonder how easy that would be for them to do. I bet once they do start doing that, though, they do a lot of them really quickly because it probably will be pretty easy to, you know, put on a different design on those things whenever you want. So I guess we'll look forward to that. Eric asks, Xbox and Halo's 20th anniversary is in November. Are they going to do some kind of digital event? Maybe call it XO21 and explore Xbox's history and finally show more campaign for Infinite? Am I hoping for too much?
I think you're going to get some nice tweets about that is what I think you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance that they might do a flight around that time with the multiplayer again, so more people get a chance to play the multiplayer. But... And I know by November we should be hearing about the campaign, so there's a chance. But there will definitely be tweets at the very least. But by then we should have heard about the campaign already. That might be a little bit late even to hear about the campaign. We should be hearing about that in October at the latest at this point. Delta with another one. Microsoft have hinted that they are considering a new controller that is similar in features to the DualSense. Have you heard anything in regards to this going ahead, as well as features or positioning in the Microsoft ecosystem? I haven't heard anything about that, like moving ahead or going forward, or them actually activating that. I think it's something that if they were doing, they're probably still designing it at the earliest. Stephen Lamb, happy 3-day weekend Friday, happy 3-day weekend Friday. Jeff giving me Jason Momoa vibes, Grubb, and Mike, they're separate platforms, Minotti. If someone who had never played a video game release before in their life were to tell you they were considering getting into the hobby, which one platform and game would you tell them to get that you think would get them hooked into gaming for the rest of their lives?
I mean, there's no right answer for that, really. That's rough. There's so many different there's so many different people, and there's so many different things that they want. Yeah, so gosh, it would depend. The first thing I thought of would just be get a Switch and get Mario Odyssey, just because that's the thing that I enjoyed the most pretty recently. Right. That maybe that's my answer, but that's rough. It's rough to do.
Yeah, I think depending on the person, I probably would recommend the Switch because, you know, if the person's busy, and that's one of the reasons they haven't partaken in gaming, the Switch makes it easy to play whenever you have a little bit of time. But, you know, there's something to be said for just like Game Pass and Xbox and something like that. But I guess, you know, PlayStation with PlayStation Now for that sort of person, even that would be pretty tempting because there's a lot of options there, or, you know, you get a lot of stuff from PS Plus or whatever. The point there being that you're just gonna have to try a bunch of games. There's no one game that I think would work for everybody. I don't know, maybe Roblox. There we go. Roblox will get them hooked forever. Got a few more here. This one's from Eric. No More Heroes 1 eventually came to Xbox 360 and PS3. 2 did not. What do you think the odds are that 3 stays Switch exclusive? Nintendo was not the publisher, if that helps. I think it ends up elsewhere because Nintendo wasn't the publisher. That's kind of how that goes with that stuff. We never got Bayonetta 2 anywhere else because Nintendo was the publisher. So, yeah, since Nintendo didn't publish this game, yeah, there's a good chance. Sosuke, hey Jeff and Mike, hope you guys have a wonderful and beautiful Friday. My question is this: if Persona 5 Royal does indeed come to Game Pass or Xbox in general, does this maybe mean we could see Persona 6 once it's announced come to Xbox day one?
I mean, gosh, maybe that's something that Microsoft wants to throw a lot of money at, is to be like, they'll be the partner, because it would have to be that. It wouldn't be like there's no partner. So Microsoft or Sony are going to throw money at that thing, so maybe Microsoft just throws more and they get like more of the rights to that one. But look, the Sony partnership has worked out pretty well for Persona. There's been a pretty long history there. It's hard to imagine that. And if they are like in bed with Sony, it's hard to imagine Persona 6 coming out on Xbox like day and date.
Yep. I think that Sony would do a lot of work to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Right.
Persona is pretty important to PlayStation. From Cole Knapp, do you think Nintendo will make a pixel art game again? I think they will.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they kind of did with Mario Maker, sort of.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. I think, but like a fully produced, like dedicated pixel art game, I think they will do at least one more. Probably, while they've done that like knit and like cardboard style for Kirby and Yoshi and stuff like that, I think eventually they'll come around and be like, hey, let's just do one of those things, but as like a pixel game instead. That's the thing that we're into now.
I almost want them to more do like Spiritfarer, or like even Hollow Knight, like just really like good like 2D art games.
Yes.
Like, but yeah, I want that, or like the really nice looking pixels more so than these 2D 3D character model games with like no real art style thrown on top of it. It's like that was my complaint with Kirby, with Yoshi, and to a lesser extent even Tropical Freeze, to be honest.
Right. I want like the Mario and Luigi games sort of taken to the next level is what I want. Like those had really good sort of drawn art and really great animation, and I think they could do a lot more with that style if they were to HDify it. From Low Rule, you gents seem smarter than me. No, it's not the case.
I think it's absolutely the case.
How easy is it for Nintendo to auto add color to all the original Game Boy games on Nintendo Switch Online? I know most can be played online through an emulator with colors, so I assume it wouldn't be too hard. Is that something within the realm of possibility? Yes, and they basically did that with Game Boy Color or Game Boy Super Game Boy.
Yeah, but they added like color palettes and plates and stuff.
Yeah,
like, they don't. I mean, it doesn't colorize it. I don't know. I
don't know what the difference is personally. I think that. I
mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that the palettes,
the different shades of gray, and assigning like random colors to it. So it's like,
so color.
Okay, but like every person's skin is green.
I know this. I know
the same
that
exact color as like the walls now that are also green, and then a person's hair is blue. Like that's what a color palette is. You're not going in and making artistic colorized choices here.
But is that what they're asking about here? Is that what the rule means? I mean, I think that
I don't know. I don't know what the ROM's doing. I can't imagine there's a ROM just like smartly adds color to things.
Right. That's what I mean.
Palettes. That would be palettes like the Super Game Boy did, and maybe we'll have that. But I don't think we're gonna they're not gonna go in and individually colorize things. Yeah, people fight. Right.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what I have to deal with.
Fuck you, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh, if you mean adding colors, colorizing it. Well, if you're going to be crazy,
I think that color's not a big deal because the Game Boy Color is not even a separate platform. The Game Boy, color.
Oh my God! All right, fine. Keyword asks, what's up, Beef and Cheddar Squad? 3 questions this week. All right, here we go. Any idea if Indiana Jones is exclusive to Xbox platforms? Machine Games, I assume, is hard at work on it, but the deal predates the Microsoft acquisition. I don't know. I think there's a good chance that one's going to be multi-platform. And it's the kind of thing that, like, when they give, like, wishy-washy answers about, say that every game is going to be Xbox exclusive from now on, we're like, well, I don't know if I'd go that far. I think that's what they're talking about.
Interesting.
Number 2. Doubtful you have any info on it, but do you have any knowledge on Riot's MMO? Mike, do you know anything about Riot's MMO?
No, we don't. I know like the person who was in charge of it was his name Ghostcrawler. I want to make sure. Yeah, it's Ghostcrawler. I know he was in those Cosby Suite pictures, so maybe that disrupted things a little bit for them there. I don't know, but I assume either way, we probably wouldn't have heard much about it. They're just full on the development. It's hard work to make an MMO.
And then from the third one from Keywork here, have you guys watched Carl Jobst's video regarding the game collecting market and how it's being manipulated? Worth your time, wild shit. I did watch this. Did you watch this? Okay, yeah. I talked about it on Grubb Stacks last week a little bit, and it was I think that it is wild stuff, and I hope that this sort of thing draws a lot of attention to this space and gets the FTC to look into these guys again, because they've gotten in trouble with the FTC before. But I think Jobst's video had a lot of stuff that I would not be able to print as a journalist. A lot of stuff that was like hearsay and speculation, and people making claims as the one example I go to, because I'm not good at remembering everything, but this detail really stuck out, was Jobst included an interview with someone's son recounting a story that they heard from their dad secondhand about how someone did something unethical once, and that's the sort of thing that's like, oh, you can't do that. That's weird. The hell, someone's making like banging a drum behind me, but it sounds like they're right behind me, but they're way over there. It's messing with me.
Reverberation, sound waves.
Apparently. All right, Yami Seth asks, hey guys, just one quick question: are the Mega Man games on Game Boy any good?
My recollection is that 5 was kind of fun. I mean, look, that was like they are definitely in the realm of, man, everything is zoomed in way too hard, and it's hard to see people coming up in front of you. Look, none of them are better than the NES games. I'll say that. 5 is maybe the one to check out, and again, it's been a while since I tried it. I am curious to go back to that one.
It wasn't drums. It's a little bit of hail hitting the window here in the basement.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah,
Fun.
Freaking out for no good reason. Well, that's a pretty good reason to freak out. But oh well. Let's see. Yami said they said they never played them. Have a nice day, and let's hope we get good stuff on the Game Boy on Nintendo Switch Online. Yes, I echo that, Yami Seth. All right, we got 3 more, and 2 of those are Nick Turbo specials. So here we go.
Okay.
From Nick Turbo, if you are not a Sony pony, then why did you lick the controller? I never said I wasn't a Sony pony. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
So there. From Nick Turbo, Mike, you sweat in winter?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah, so I tweeted that I like fall because it's the season that makes me sweat the least.
Same.
I sweat a lot during the winter because you have to crank up the heaters indoors, and you
Right.
get all these weird hot spots in your house, and you're already wearing a hoodie in case you have to go outside.
All right.
So you get real warm.
And then you go
get moist.
outside and you put on a couple extra layers, and then you're like, but like it's cold, so you're like rushing through the cold, so you like work up a little bit of
Yes.
sweat and that base layer, and then you go inside and it's like really hot inside, and you still have most of your layers on. Yes, I absolutely sweat in the winter. I sweat all the time.
I
though.
sweat a lot in the winter.
Yep.
I sweat a lot in the summer. Spring even is a little weird, but yeah, fall I'm nice. Fall I'm nice and dry.
Fall's the best season by far, and that's one of the biggest
I'll tell you
reasons
what,
why.
And I know we got mad about people saying like winter starts on December 1st. It like I guess that
Right.
extends it. I'll tell you what though, on September 1st here, it got significantly cooler.
It did here
was
too.
Kind of weird.
It did here too.
It was
Yeah.
kind of weird.
He was
I
like, "Hey
"Oh,
Jeff,
it's
you ready for fall?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am actually. I welcome it, please." And the whole point of that was never like, I'm absolutely getting out like Halloween decorations here very soon. Like I am ready like to bring on
yeah.
fall in every way.
Oh,
I'll go have a pumpkin drink right now. It was just that if Microsoft said the fall and they released the game on December 8th, and then you got mad, like that's not what I think the fall is. It does. Yes, it's still the fall, you weirdos. God, I
Yeah,
still
I'm
get mad
absolutely
about
one
that.
of those. Oh, it's the day after Thanksgiving. Get my tree up, kind of
Yeah,
guys.
same.
Like, yeah,
yes, it's not about that. It's just like you can't work back. Yeah, whatever. Jedi Moss 4 here with our last one here from the Discord. Are people expecting too much from game or franchise anniversaries? Are games
Yes.
made for anniversaries, or is that backward? Yeah, I mean, right. If they're expecting too much.
Yeah, so that was, I think, with the Zelda 35th
35,
anniversary
yeah.
thing, or people complain. Yeah, you're getting some hail there. But
Yes.
the people who are like, they're not doing anything for like the Metroid 35th anniversary. Again, those aren't real things, really. They did it for Mario because they had a lot of Mario stuff up, and it's because it's Mario. Anytime there's like a 5-year anniversary thing you celebrate, you do. But typically, like, yeah, it's ridiculous to always expect there to be something because, you know, so-and-so game is now 35 years old.
Yep, 100%. All right, Mike, that does it for the questions of the Discord. Did we get any more super chats?
We did get a few more here. J. Stud McLovin asks me, Mike, the best Disney IP game for each retro console. Okay, so for NES, that would be DuckTales. Oh, the DuckTales 2 is also very good. On Genesis, that's going to be Donald Duck's Quack Shot. Castle Illusion and World Illusion are also very good, but I like Quack Shot.
What about like Aladdin and stuff?
Aladdin's also very good, but
Okay.
I like Quack Shot.
Okay, cool.
I like Quack Shot on Super Nintendo. Jay, this is a game we need to play. It might actually be Goof Troop. They made like there's a co-op top-down kind of puzzle action game called Goof Troop, made by Capcom, starring Goofy and Max, and it's It's fantastic. For some reason, I feel like it wasn't talked about that much at the time, but everyone brings it up now. It's like one of the
we could try to use that Steam remote play, but also we could like get a Parsec instance, and we both tap into Parsec, and then we could like stream it from the Parsec computer. So that's something we should look into. That'd be cool.
I don't think it's like a super long game. I think it's something we can maybe play in a long session. But yeah, I want to play some. I want to play some Goof Troop.
Maybe that could be one of the things we do on Extra Life this year. We'll take a look.
Yeah. Also, the Master System has like some really good save games that I want to play. So it has its own Castle of Illusion that is it's like a similar game, but it's different from the Genesis and also very good. And it has a sequel there called Land of Illusion, which is also very good. And there's two like Donald Duck 2D side scrollers that really aren't like anything else. I think the one's called the Lucky Dime Caper, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But then beyond that, like got PlayStation era, I'm like struggling a little bit more there. There was weird, like I liked the Hercules game, but it wasn't as good as some of these.
There's a Muppet game for PlayStations, for PlayStation 1 that's actually pretty decent. I can't remember.
That's pretty Disney owning them. I'm going to disqualify that.
I feel like it's a Disney IP now, so
it is. Yeah, well, yeah, it is now. Okay, then all the Alien games are now Disney games.
Okay, all right, good point. God damn it.
There you go. Yeah, how do you like that? Yeah,
I don't like that at all. Actually,
there's like a lot of like pretty. There's a Bugs Life 3D platformer on PlayStation 1 that I actually liked fine. There's a Toy Story 2 one that I thought was okay. I feel like there's something on PlayStation 1 that I'm really forgetting about. Then PlayStation 2, you just have the Kingdom Hearts games and stuff like that. So now you're really set. The Nintendo 64, I feel like, does not have very many good Disney games.
There was like a Mickey Mouse DDR game for that. Am I making that up?
That's GameCube.
Okay, GameCube. Okay, GameCube.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Gosh, Nintendo 64 I do not associate with Disney at all. Which is kind of interesting and weird. So the best of them probably still just DuckTales, so that's probably still the best answer. Jason McLovin asks, Jeff, will we ever see Legacy of Kain again?
I'm going to say yes. We probably will see Legacy of Kain again.
You were kind of selling that Redfall to be more of a Legacy Kain-esque thing than it really was. I had to not to drag you a little.
No, that's I just was like, because the image I saw was so blurry, but in my head, because I heard it was about vampires, it just looked like the Legacy of Kain guys, but like I never knew if it was Legacy or Kain or not. But yeah, I mean, that's in my head.
You said it was Legacy of Kain, but you said it was like going to give those vibes.
I mean, but in the picture I saw, that's what it looked like, and that's what I was always trying to say. But yeah, it's definitely not that at all. But I don't know. I think we'll probably see a Legacy of Kain again, probably. Anything else?
I do want to say the Dreamcast had actually. I mean, I think it was on the PlayStation 1 also, but the Dreamcast had a Mario Kart clone where you drove through levels inspired by Walt Disney World like attractions and stuff, and that was pretty good. Okay, RDX Son of a Fett says Halo, Psychonauts 2, Far Cry have special Series X. I don't know what that means exactly. They have special Series X.
Maybe they run better on Series X. I don't know, but yeah, yeah, cool. Thanks for the super chat.
Thank you for super chat. Psychonauts. Have you been playing more Psychonauts too?
Yeah, a little bit. It's the game that, like, when I do get time, it's the one I want to be playing the most because I want to finish that game. But yeah, I got a little bit further in it. It's still a really good game.
Cool stuff. Maybe he meant they had the special consoles, as we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, but do they? I mean,
I don't think so. I didn't think there was a Psychonauts 2 special edition. I mean, neither was. All right, Jeff, what have you been playing? Man, that hail's coming down. Oh my God, are you okay?
I'm okay. It's coming down. And my kid's a little freaked out, but I told her I'll be done soon, so I think they're okay. But yeah, it's I think it's just coming and hitting this window directly, and it's like it's in a window well, so like it would have to come down at a very specific angle to hit it. But yeah, it's loud. So I'm surviving, and I'm playing the Forgotten City, which I just started before the podcast today. But I'm already super into it, and it's that game where you need to stop everyone from dying, because if one person commits a sin, everyone dies. So you need to figure out who's going to commit that sin to stop them from doing that. So that means going around and interviewing a bunch of people. And it was the game that was originally made as a mod for Skyrim, and then the people who made the mod broke it out and turned it into a standalone game. And so far it's been very good. But I think I was sitting there with 12 minutes, and I was sitting there with this game. And I think this game is also sort of a time loop mechanic sort of thing. And I'm like, do I ever even really want to start 12 minutes after hearing about it? And I do kind of, because I want to see the weird twist that everyone says is so bad.
I didn't, and I just read the spoiler, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm probably going to end up doing that, but I was going to maybe do a thing with a video with someone who asked me like, hey, let's play that game and we'll talk about it. I'm like, okay, if you still want to do that when he gets back from vacation, maybe. But when I had the option, I'm like, I'm going to play this Forgotten City game that people say is really good. And so far, my response to it has been like, okay, I am so ready to go explore this neat little underground city that has like only like 22 people living in it and learn their lives and kind of treat it like Outer Wilds, where like I'm just going to go in this loop and try to discover how things work and see if I can break things. And it's also, it does feel like Skyrim when you're playing it. And we were talking beforehand, you called it cozy, to go back to that. And that's exactly what it is. It's like, I'm just kind of jumping around, and you know, my character's arms fly up in the air, like when they get down from, or when they jump up and then they're coming back down, like they do that animation, and that's like, yeah, I recognize that from Skyrim. This is great. So it's cool. I thought it was going to be more when I first heard about it, and people were like, oh, it's like an adventure game. I thought it was going to be like more static, but the fact that it does play like Skyrim just kind of makes it feel like an exploration game that is open and dynamic, and I gel with that a lot. So I from what I've played so far, which is very little, like under an hour, I'm totally into it, and that's what I'm going to be playing after Psychonauts 2.
Apparently, there is a Psychonauts special Xbox Series X, so that's
okay.
That's what. Okay,
wow.
So,
okay. Cool.
I think it sounds like maybe it was like contest related. I don't know if there's something you just go and buy. But that weird for Series X. I guess that's a way to sell the older systems, huh?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense if it's like contest related or like, you know, a couple one-offs, or maybe there's like 10 of them. But I think we were kind of referring to just the Halo one being one that's being mass manufactured and being sold in stores. So yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, the big thing here is I played Far Cry 6, which I kind of talked about how, you know, like, so I played Far Cry 3 and like that. I played Blood Dragon and loved that. I liked Far Cry 4. And then after Primal was when I was like, all right, I'm a little over this formula. So I skipped 5 and I skipped New Dawn. And I was mostly interested to see like, all right, how much is this series changing since I took a break from it? And it, like, not very much at all. It's still very much Far Cry. And, you know, why should it change all that much? You know, Far Cry 5 was still the best selling one, or at least the fastest selling one at some point. So the series is still doing fine, but it certainly wasn't enough to like bring me back in any kind of exciting, meaningful way. But I mean, you know, like a lot of people are just going to really be into these very big AAA looking games. It's, you know, something you can buy and feel comfortable about it, taking up a lot of your time for a while. So I think, you know, people are still going to be into it. It's still going to do just fine. I am interested to see the full game and like be able to see how well it tackles some of these sensitive topics it's bringing up. I'm really interested to read really from like, you know, more the Latinx community to see what they think of the game. There's been some of that right now, and it's been interesting, but it's like more so than reviewing it myself. That's what I'm interested to see is the opinion of them.
Yeah. And like even more so than like the previous ones, like there was some stuff then, you know, one that took place in kind of like Tibet or whatever, right? That was one of them. And I don't know.
3? No, Tibet, four,
right? Yeah, but it's like this one's like drawing from a very specific like Cuban history there, and so it's like yeah, I do want to hear from that community and see what they have to say. I also been playing Golf Club Wasteland, which is a new game. I think it's out today. It's like an adventure game where you golf, and a story is being told through like a radio channel that you're listening to and through the backgrounds. And basically they're like, rich people went to Mars and because of the environmental catastrophe that happened on Earth, and then they go back to Earth to golf in the wastes of Earth, basically. And so you're an astronaut golfing on Earth, and you see like all this destruction that happened because Earth was, you know, destroyed by terrible weather events. And then you're listening to like this channel that's like nostalgic about Earth, and like, you know, like playing music that's supposed to go back to that time, like right before we left Earth and all this stuff. And the golfing almost doesn't matter. You're just kind of trying to hit the golf ball through these holes, and there's cool mechanics, but they're not really keeping score, at least not that I've seen. Maybe they're doing behind the surface. Like if you get a hole in one, you get an achievement, so they are keeping score somewhere, but it's not like they're not showing it to you, and they don't want you to worry about that stuff. If it takes you 12 hits, 12 swings to get it into the hole. You're not going to feel punished. They will eventually give you an option to skip. It's more about like setting up this cool atmosphere, and it does have this very over animated, almost Prince of Persia style look to its golfing and stuff like that, and that's cool. And then it's about setting up this world and making you feel like you are getting this cool story about what's happening. And I'm about halfway through it, I think, and so far it's been interesting, and I am enjoying the vibes and enjoying the story, and actually the music's really good and stuff like that. So when the radio station does play like the classic nostalgia tunes of what would be a future Earth for us, it still hits really well, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, I think that's out on Steam today. It might also be on Switch, I think, and I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, but yeah, I'm playing it on Steam.
All right, Jeff, let's get out of here.
All right, everybody, we're gonna wrap this up. You know what? I'm gonna hit the button, and then I'm gonna have Mike tell all of you where you can find him on the internet.
Yep, you could. Oh, excuse me.
No, it's okay, Mike. Do it. Stretch it. No one's gonna mind. Everyone understands now.
Johnny's end of the yeah. You get.
Oh, he's still going. He's still going.
Okay, I'm good. You can find me on Twitter at Tolkoto, TOLKOTO. Check out 90s Disney, my 90s Disney podcast at 90sdisney.com. Our new episode about Rock and Roller Coaster is out now. And you should check us out on Less Than 10 Dogs, which is now on Wednesdays. We do that Wednesdays. So see us there.
I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitch. I think I said I was going to do some Metroid Other M last weekend, and I ended up getting busy and couldn't do it. I am going to try to do some more this weekend. I want to kind of get back to that regular schedule of at least once a week, streaming some of that game. I guess, I should get that done because Metroid Dread's going to be here in about a month. So
before that, you have Wario, right? So
yeah, we got Wario's coming up fast too. So yeah, we're going to be busy. There's a lot of games coming up. It is review season now. There's games that we're thinking about, making sure we have making time for to play. So look out for those reviews on GamesBeat.com. I do Grubb Snacks over on Giant Bomb. I talked about it a few times on this show. If you want to watch that, if you want to interact live, you can do that by going to giantbomb.com/upgrade. There's a free trial where you can do that. And next Thursday, come hang out with me live when I do that show at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. So that'd be like 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So yeah, we moved the time of that as well because of children. And then, yeah, let's see what else. I posted a new episode of How Games Make Money, where I talked to the Able Gamers folks about their APX certification for developers, where you could take this real world course that isn't about like saying, hey, you're bad if you don't make your games accessible. It's not like that. It's, hey, here's some good tips and good ways to think about this stuff to ensure you make your games accessible for everybody. And it was a very fascinating conversation. A lot of good responses to that story. So check that out. It's on GamesBeat.com. You can find the podcast there, or go to How Games Make Money wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get out of here, Mike. Bye, everybody.
Bye.